Deep beneath the gilded palace of Knossos, hidden away from the light of the sun, lived a secret so shameful it had to be buried in stone. It was a prison designed to hold a creature that was an affront to the gods themselves, a beast with the body of a man and the head of a bull. For years, the screams of Athenian youth echoed through its twisting corridors, silenced only by the crunch of bone. This is not just a story of a hero slaying a monster. It is a tale of divine punishment, twisted desire, and a labyrinth of lies. Today, we enter the darkness to face the Minotaur. Before the monster breathed its first jagged breath, there was a king and there was a sin. King Minos of Crete, desperate to legitimize his rule, begged Poseidon for a sign. The ocean god answered, sending a snow-white bull of impossible beauty rising from the sea foam. It was a test, sacrifice the beast to prove obedience. But Minos, blinded by greed, kept the divine animal and slaughtered a lesser bull in its place. You cannot cheat the gods. Poseidon's revenge was not war, but a perverse curse. He poisoned the mind of Queen Pasiphae, instilling in her an uncontrollable, unnatural lust for the white bull. To satisfy this horrific urge, Pasiphae employed Daedalus, the master craftsman. He built a hollow wooden cow, wrapped in real hide, allowing the queen to deceive the beast. The fruit of this union was the Asterion, the Minotaur. As the child grew, he became a feral nightmare, hungering only for human flesh. Minos, terrified by this living symbol of his hubris, commissioned Daedalus once more, this time to build a prison of eternal confusion, the Labyrinth. A subterranean maze so complex that Daedalus himself barely escaped it after laying the final stone. Crete now had its dungeon, and soon it would need prisoners. Across the sea, Athens paid the price for Minos's cruelty. After conquering the city, Minos demanded a blood tax. Every 9 years, Athens sent 7 noble youths and 7 maidens to Crete. They were not slaves, they were fodder. Stripped of weapons and hope, they were cast into the labyrinth to wander until starvation took them, or the Minotaur found them. For decades, the weeping of mothers filled the streets of Athens. The black-sailed ship that carried the tributes was a floating hearse, delivering the city's future to the belly of a beast born of sin. Enter Theseus, the secret son of King Aegeus. He had returned to Athens a hero, only to find a city in mourning. Witnessing the despair, Theseus refused to let the lottery of death decide the fate of his people. He volunteered to take the place of a tribute. Before departing, he made a solemn vow to his father, King Aegeus. He would return not as a corpse, but as a liberator. Aegeus, heartbroken, extracted a promise. If Theseus survived, he must change the ship's black sail to white on the return journey. That white sail would be the signal that the prince lived. If the sail remained black, the king would know his son was dead. In Crete, the tributes were paraded before the court, but the eyes of Ariadne, Minos' daughter, fell on Theseus. Captivated by his bravery, she fell instantly in love and resolved to betray her father to save the hero. She knew the labyrinth was a death sentence, not just because of the monster, but because the path back was impossible to find. She sought out Daedalus and acquired a simple, brilliant tool, a ball of red thread. She smuggled it to Theseus with a sword on one condition. If he lived, he must take her away from Crete. Theseus agreed, taking the thread that would be his lifeline. The heavy stone doors groaned open, and the smell of rot washed over them. Theseus stepped into the abyss alone, the red thread unspilling behind him, his only connection to the living world. The labyrinth was a psychological torture chamber. Dead ends, shifting shadows, and an oppressive silence broken only by the distant heavy breathing of the predator. Hours turned to eternity. Finally, at the center, in a chamber littered with bones, he found him, the Minotaur, a hulking mountain of muscle and fur, sleeping amidst the carnage. But as Theseus approached, the bull head snapped up, the eyes burned red, the monster roared. The battle was primal. The Minotaur possessed raw, animalistic strength, swinging a massive double-bladed axe, while Theseus relied on speed. He dodged crushing blows that shattered the stone floor, rolling through the bone-strewn debris. It was a dance of death in flickering torchlight. As the beast charged, blindly furious, Theseus seized his moment. He vaulted over the horns, landing on the monster's back, and drove his sword deep into the thick neck. The Minotaur fell with a ground-shaking thud. The curse of Minos, the shame of Pasiphae, was dead. Following the red thread, Theseus retraced his steps, emerging from the darkness victorious. He gathered the tributes and Ariadne, fleeing to the harbor under the cover of night. But the story takes a dark turn on the island of Naxos. During a stopover, while Ariadne slept, Theseus ordered his men to set sail. He abandoned the woman who saved his life on the desolate beach. Whether commanded by the god Dionysus or driven by cold-hearted ambition, Theseus left her behind. Ariadne awoke to the nightmare of seeing her lover's sails disappearing over the horizon, her screams lost to the wind. In his haste, or perhaps distracted by his betrayal, Theseus forgot the one thing that mattered most to his father, the sail. The ship approached the coast of Athens, flying the black sail of death. King Aegeus had spent every day on the highest cliff of Cape Sunion, scanning the sea. When he saw the black fabric against the blue sky, his hope shattered. Believing his son devoured, the king threw himself from the cliff into the churning waters below. The sea was named the Aegean in his honor, a permanent memorial to a father's grief and a hero's fatal negligence. Theseus arrived as a conqueror, but was crowned a king in mourning. He had slain the monster and liberated Athens, yet his legacy was forever stained. He was the hero who killed the Minotaur, yes, but he was also the man who abandoned his savior and inadvertently killed his father. The myth teaches us that while monsters in the dark are terrifying, the carelessness and ambition within the human heart can be just as deadly. The labyrinth is gone, but the twists and turns of fate remain. The Minotaur is dead, but the darkness never truly leaves.